I'd like to welcome you to our meeting today, the 2019 annual meeting of the Healthcare for All Washington group. We'll be looking back at some successes from 2019. We'll be looking ahead to what we can do in 2020. And we'll be listening to our panel of healthcare experts talk about the situation now and things that we need to keep in mind as the Universal Healthcare Work Group begins its work for the next year. And then, of course, we are going to ramp up for action in 2020 and beyond. So I'll give a brief report on the state of the organization, which is good. We are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization of dedicated volunteers. We work out of our home offices, and we are a nearly all volunteer organization. So that has resulted in our board of directors being a true working board of directors. So that means we need to acknowledge all the hard work they do all year long. So at this time, I'd like to call their names and ask them to stand and ask you, audience members, to hold your applause. As we recognize Vice President Kelly Powers and Treasurer Dana Iorio, Members at Large D.W. Clark, Erica Nialia Skral, thank you, Erica, Ronnie Schur, thank you, Ronnie, and Sherry Weinberg. And not to forget Hal Stockbridge. Thank you, Hal. And there is one board member who is not here today. His name is Peter Lucas. Thank you, everybody, for... We also have an advisory board, and David Loud sits on that. David, would you stand too? And thank you. And Mary Margaret Pruitt, who is our recording secretary, and she's kind of our troubleshooter today, so she might be going out in hunt of some trouble. I don't see her right now, but many of you know her, and she has a name tag, so please say hi to her when you see her around. The two members that are of our advisory board that are not able to be here today are Allison Fair and Jeff Johnson. Then we have a few past presidents here in the room. We've got Ann Brand. Stand, please. Thank you, Ann. And Sherry Weinberg, again. Thank you, Sherry. Really appreciate that. So through prudent management, we've been able to fund 2 part-time paid staff, and I'd like to recognize them at this time. Sydney Jones, who is there you go, stand up. Thank you, Sydney. So Sydney is our communications specialist. She updates our website, designs the graphics you see there on the website and in the e-bulletins and action alerts, and on your table in your program. And she generally makes us look good. Thank you, Sydney.
My pleasure.
Great. And our lobbyist, Cindy Laws. And Cindy, I saw you earlier. I don't see you. Oh, there you are. Thank you, Sydney. Stand up. So Cindy has been with us since mid-February. She has guided our lobbying efforts to success in 2019. And she continues to work with key members of the healthcare committees and us on legislation for the coming session in 2020. So thank you very much, Cindy, and everyone else who's lobbying on our behalf all the time. I see that we have Representative Nicole Macri in the House. Wave, stand up. Everybody's standing up. Thank you. Good to have you here. Would you like to say a few words, just right now? All right, great.
Thanks, Marcia, and thanks for having me. So I'm Representative Nicole Macri. I represent the 43rd Legislative District, which is the district that we're in right now. And it has been my pleasure to work with you all from Healthcare for All over the last couple of years. I've been in the legislature for the last 3 years, and we have made tremendous progress, some of which I think you're going to hear about and certainly is outlined in your program, on moving towards a universal health care in Washington State. And it's been my honor to push for that in the legislature, and wanted to give you a preview as we start ramping up in preparation for the 2020 session of what that will look like. So you all know that we run on biennial budgets in Washington State. So what we're going into in January is what we call the short session. It's a supplemental legislative session where we will be hopefully convening just from mid-January to mid-March, so a 60-day session. And usually we don't take up big budget issues, but look at budget fixes. You are probably aware of that the outcome on Initiative 976 has huge implications, particularly for our transportation budget. So in terms of budget issues, we think we'll be focused primarily on that. But healthcare is the second largest area of the Washington State budget following K-12 education. And so there's always conversation about healthcare budget issues every year, regardless of if it's the first year of the biennium or a supplemental year. So the big issues we're hearing about in terms of budget are continued issues to address with the state, the school employees benefits program. So we, through the work that we did on K-12 education, we expanded the state's role in funding and providing health benefits to all school employees across the state. And there have been budget projections over the last couple of years. We've missed the mark and continue to have to increase budgetary investments in the SEB program, School Employees Benefits Board, and we assume going into 2020 we're going to have to look at that probably again. So SEB is going to be a big issue. And then some of you may be aware in the 2019 budget, there was significant what's called assumed savings in the Medicaid program that was based on what is known as enhanced program integrity, meaning controlling fraud, waste, and abuse in the Medicaid program. The general consensus is that those savings assumptions were far too ambitious, and so we are going to have to make increased investments into the Medicaid program in 2020. So broad stroke, those are the big budgetary issues we're going to be dealing with in healthcare. On the policy level, I believe that we're going to have movement on a number of areas of interest to us all. One is on expanding access. I've had a bill for the last couple of years to expand Apple Health to all residents up to age 26. Right now, in particular, our undocumented immigrant residents of the state lose their Apple Health at age 19, and there is momentum building on that bill, thanks in large part to advocates like you and other folks from around the state. And so that, I think, is going to be a big push for expanded coverage and access in Washington State. It does have a relatively large fiscal note, so I think that's going to be our challenge on that one, but expanding coverage to more residents will be a big issue. Affordable access to prescription drugs continues to be an issue. We passed a bill last year around drug cost transparency. You may be aware of the challenges around getting affordable access to insulin. I think you're going to hear a little bit about intentions and efforts on that, but I believe that there will be some specific conversation about how to make insulin access more affordable in Washington State. Policy proposals are being drafted right now. And then hospital system oversight and accountability is a big interest area for many lawmakers right now. one of the keys to really ensuring that we can have universal access to healthcare is that we need to manage the costs of healthcare, and in order to do that, we need to better understand what those costs are. And right now, particularly in hospital systems, we don't have a good view of that. So there's been a lot of looking at what other states have done to hold hospitals accountable in their reporting and their community benefits, and ensuring that we, as taxpayers who fund much of the healthcare system, have a good understanding of where the dollars are being spent within the hospital system. So those are a few areas that I've been hearing about that we'll be focusing on that are particularly relevant to those of us who are interested in moving towards a universal healthcare system. The work around the work group on a pathway to universal healthcare continues. I think you'll hear from a few folks who've been involved in that. It is going to be our responsibility to make sure that that work group continues to stay focused on the charge that the legislature gave, which is really to come up with clear recommendations to the legislature to help move us towards a truly universal healthcare system. So that's kind of my quick and dirty update about where we are, what we expect. I think many of you know how to get in touch with me, because many of you do, which I very much welcome, and am very grateful for all the support, but all the background and context that you've provided as we continue to work together towards ensuring that all residents of our state can have access to affordable, robust, available health care. So thank you, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, Nicole, and we are so pleased to be able to work with you. We really appreciate everything you've done for us. You're a true champion of healthcare reform for us. So I don't see any other elected officials in the room, unless I missed you, and you can stand up or forever sit down. Oh, Seth Armstrong. Recognize Seth Armstrong, former representative in the State House. Thank you, Seth. Thank you.
1981 to 1988.
Great. Glad you're still with us, and that speaks to the difficulty of this issue and getting resolved, and it speaks to the tenacity of everyone in this room to be working on this for so long. Healthcare for All Washington has been in existence in one form or the other since 1994. That's a 25-year, is that right, 25-year history? And some advocates go back earlier than that. So we really, but we feel that we're on the cusp of a victory, and we're making progress toward that victory, and it's with the help of legislators like Nicole Macri and others that are other of our healthcare champions that are not here today, but really, they would be. They were all invited, but they're very busy right now. So, and we do keep in touch with them regularly, so they won't be out of the loop for long. Right. So I'd like to just say a little bit about our standing committees and let you know who are the people to see if you're interested in doing outreach activities with us. That would be co-chairs Ronnie Shore, who was right there, and Erica, who you saw earlier. And they organize it. Great team. And a few other members of the committee, too, and the group that works on arranging outside activities, scheduling meetings with four speakers, and meeting on an individual basis or group or organizational basis with people that are advocates for single-payer healthcare, like we are. And we also ally with groups such as Healthcare is a Human Right Washington campaign, North Seattle Progressives, Indivisibles groups around the state, and we have, among others, I haven't named everybody, but many are included in the Healthcare is a Human Right Coalition, which is a very important group that's beginning to ramp up their efforts for the coming session as well. There's also, you may not be aware of, but there's a national one-payer states group that meets by conference call once a month. And those are very interesting and important calls that I listen in on and participate in every month. David Loud does too. And sometimes our vice president is able to join us, Kelly Powers, for those conversations. And we appreciate all that work that we do there on the telephone. We do a lot of work on the telephone. So, and that's a group of more than 20 states who also have their own plans for a single-payer system going forward. And we exchange tips and tricks and messaging ideas, and they're just really ramping up to be a big major player in the national scene. They have a website, onepayerstates.org, all spelled out, lowercase, in letters. Communications team is headed up by, it's headed up by Kelly Powers. I think she doesn't mind being the head of it. She is the head of it. And then we have, she's joined by Sydney Jones with graphics and composing Facebook posts. D.W. Clark, who's videoing today and will have a record of the proceedings, and others on an ad hoc basis. Then fundraising is important, and our chair, Peter Lucas, heads that up along with Dana, our treasurer, and Hal Stockbridge. And then we have a political action committee that's really been busy this year. So busy that they've split up they have two wings. They have the policy wing and they have the lobby team. So the policy wing, with co-chairs Sherry Weinberg and Elaine Cox, they research policy issues and draft legislative proposals. They provide background papers also on new legislation. So they're the brains behind the policy with others on their committee. And then we have the lobby team. Lobbying team consists of Cindy Laws, Kelly Powers, myself, and Hal Stockbridge. Plus, we have numerous citizen lobbyists who join us on the front lines in Olympia during public hearings and at meetings of their groups whenever it's necessary to contact their legislators about an action they want to do something about. We count on them. The policy team was, the lobby and policy teams were influential in winning our 2019 legislative victories. And so I'd like to call upon now Cindy Laws, our lobbyist, to talk a bit about what those victories were. Cindy?
Let's get the short version here. Welcome, everybody. It is, a lot of folks may not remember, but when there was, if you look back in the program there's a listing of the history of the organization. And in 1998, I was recruited to become the executive director for Healthcare 2000, and led that effort for a little over 2.5 years when we developed a single-payer healthcare initiative. So that was really important because I had the history with this organization. I knew the issue really, really well since we wrote an initiative, and I got a call from Hal Stockbridge, board member Hal Stockbridge, who was on the board along with Sherry and Dana from those days. And I got a call from Hal saying, "We need a lobbyist. We've got a hearing on Tuesday." So it was a rapid ratchet, but fortunately it was really great. Hal had on this bill, the first bill was Cascade Care Bill, which is really fabulous bill. And I want to note here, a lot of folks didn't understand this bill. It was originally called the Public Option Bill, and one of the first things we testified to was that it was a public option bill that didn't truly have a public option in it. But it did make a difference. There was 500,000 people in the exchange right now, and the exchange, of course, has plans that are absolutely unaffordable. A person making $48,000 is paying $16,000 between the cost of premiums and deductibles before they even get to the copays. So it's very unattainable. 200,000 people are uninsured even with our Medicaid program. And so this is something that will help 700,000 people. This is the key language here that I've got highlighted. This is the part that gets pretty darn close to a coverage, the public option, that highlighted part. And so this is folks that cannot afford it at all, is looking at the ways that they can implement that. The other part I want to emphasize here is look at this part. 4 Republicans voted for this. 4 Republicans voted for that. So we made good progress, really good progress on that. And in various committees, we got votes in the various committees as well. So this was really great to pass. We had great working relationships with Representative Cody when it was going through the House. Of course, Representative Macri was influential in the Senate. We was really aided by Annette Cleveland, Chair Annette Cleveland, who I used to work with when we both worked for U.S. Senator Brock Adams in the late 80s, early 90s. And so this was really fabulous, and to get this passed and to have it signed into law. Governor Jay Inslee, you may have heard, repeatedly referenced in his campaign for president that we had passed this in the state of Washington, so it was a really big deal. But what was really crucial was that our support for Cascade Care helped move support for the Pathway Bill. And the Pathway Bill is 2 versions of it, or the same exact language. Representative Nicole Macri developed it, and it was in the House. And we worked really hard because of our support with Cascade Care. We were able to convince Representative Cody to make sure this bill was heard in the Senate in the House after it passed the Senate. In the Senate, the bill was sponsored by almost the entire Democratic caucus. It was the person pushing it the hardest was Senator Emily Randall. But the people behind the scenes that were really making the things happen in the Senate was Senator David Frocht and then Senator Bob Hasagawa. And they were influential because we proposed several amendments, which Hal had gone through the language, and Hal developed amendments that we supported. And they included these key words to create, implement, and fund universal health care system that includes the 6 words: publicly funded, publicly administered, and publicly delivered. And those words are in there. We got those words in there. They weren't in the bill till we got them in. We expanded the work group. So we got most of our amendments we got in, and that was thanks to David Frocht and Bob Hasagawa. And you can go to the next slide. Thank you. So the great part is that it was, when you go through a legislative session, there are so many steps to go through. And some people gave up. A lot of our allies gave up. It's like, oh, the bill's dead. I want to make this clear. A bill is never dead until Sine Die says it's dead. And in a budget year, the first year, it's not dead, even then, because it's put forth to the next year. But we got it through because thanks to the help of folks on the Appropriations and the Ways and Means Committee. The Ways and Means Committee, which is the Senate version, the Ways and Means Committee puts in the money. And they put in the money in the bill that did the actuarial study and the work group money. And because they got it in the Senate, and again, David Frocht, a lot of the people, there's a huge overlap between the Senate Healthcare Committee and the Ways and Means Committee. And because of that overlap, which included 3 Republican women that were key: Barbara Bailey, Becker, and Ann Rivers. And those 3 were on healthcare and Ways and Means and rules. And so that was really great because in the Healthcare Committee, none of them signed in opposition to the bill. So that was influential. And then going into Ways and Means, Ann Rivers didn't sign in opposition to the bill. So that then helped a lot. And then we were able to get the money into the Senate Ways and Means. When it goes over to the House, and we passed it through the House, again, Nicole really did overtime work on this. I can't say enough about how hard she worked on that on the House side. And then we got it through Appropriations. Again, huge overlap. In Appropriations, the person that really made it happen there was Representative Eileen Cody. So this was really influential. We worked really hard. Hal and I worked really hard with Tim Ormsby, who's chair of Appropriations, and June Robinson, who's the vice chair. We picked up Republican votes. Paul Harris, Representative Paul Harris, who is the head of the person doing the measles vaccine, preventing the exempting their kids out of that. So he's turned out to be a pretty darn lucrative looking person for the future going forward. So it was really great. When the clock starts running out, you always look at, can you get this in what's called a budget proviso. In this case, the budget proviso took almost every single word that was in the bill as it passed out of appropriations in the House. And that language got incorporated into the budget with the dollars, and therefore it went to the governor and it was signed. So now we have a pathway working group that will have the next year and a half to study this. And then just to build on top of that, we wanted to have one seat on the pathway work group. So we talked about who we wanted on there. We submitted 9 names, 6 of our people got in. There's 33 members of the work group, and 6 of them are directly from Healthcare for All Washington. So far, we've identified at least 60% of the work group includes people that are known supporters of single-payer version of universal health care. Because, of course, you all know there's universal health care and then there's single-payer. And there's a lot of confusion about what the difference is. Personally, I don't really care as long as I know that they're in favor of it. So we've got at least 60%. We've only identified 2 people that are pretty much there to bullocks up the whole thing. But it does move forward. Meanwhile, Cascade Care is moving forward. They've already started work on identifying ways in which they're going to lower the cost of the premiums and provide more benefits and so on and so forth. So we're going forth with that. We've also spent, since the retreat, during the retreat, the board identified areas that we wanted to look for. What can we do while we're waiting for these things to happen? Because they're both 2-year programs. While we're waiting for that to happen, we don't want to sit around and wait. We know Congress is doing their thing, and we have to be realistic that nothing's going to happen in Congress until Democrats win back the Senate. So what could we do? So we talked about, and we spent a lot of time developing proposals on things that are topical and things that are urgent and things that impact a large population. And what we came up with, as Representative Macri mentioned, was on insulin, dealing with the diabetes drugs and the supplies that go with them. Diabetes affects almost 21% of senior citizens, and it affects 11.4% of all Washingtonians. It's a huge impact. The price of insulin has gone up thousands of percent in the last 10 years. The cost of making the drug has not, so it's a matter of price gouging. So we developed a proposal, met with Representative Macri, and was very excited to hear that there was already great support for doing something on this. Earlier this week, we learned that Senator Kaiser has taken up our language and is going to be introducing a bill, and the House version of our bill was going to be introduced by Representative Eileen Cody. So we'll continue refining the language. They're working on the language right now. Continue refining the language, and that goes forward. Again, what our proposal is that the state use a model that's already in existence. The state, again, with Kaiser, helped develop this program. It's a child vaccination program where the state does bulk purchase of child vaccinations, and those are made available so people do not pay for child vaccinations. Using that same model is what we're looking at for diabetes. The state would use the bulk purchasing model. There's a lot of other things on how that can happen, what gets worked in, what we end up getting in a bill, but we will continue to fight for this bill to ensure that people will be able to afford insulin, that nobody will have to be rationing insulin in the state of Washington, and that no one will die, that no hospitals will go bankrupt because they've provided care for someone in renal failure who is an uninsured patient. So we're going to continue to move forward. Great board behind us. I can't tell you how great it's been to work with Marcia and Kelly, and especially Hal, who has accompanied me to almost all the meetings with legislators that we've had. I want to thank you all for continuing to, when we need your help, when we ask you to write when we ask you to show up and testify, we need you to keep doing that, because never giving up. The thing that I keep hearing when I met with Senator Kaiser earlier this week, she said when it comes to our bill, she needs regular people to testify. We'll get lots of doctors, of course. We'll get the Diabetes Association. We'll get those folks. We need regular people who have diabetes, who have a child with diabetes, who have been impacted by diabetes, people who have seen the tremendous cost of diabetes. We will need you to testify. If you can't come to Olympia and testify, we will need you to write letters and to contact your legislators to make sure everybody knows. And again, to go back to that slide, with how many Republican votes we got on bills that were a lot more challenging than diabetes. We have a great opportunity before us. It happens to be that the Speaker of the House has diabetes. So there's nothing like that personal connection, something that impacts people like that, and the ability to be able to tell that story. And so, again, look forward to a very good year. We're going to keep pushing that mountain, and hopefully in the next couple of years we will be all the way there. Thank you.
When you go down to Olympia to influence the legislature, who is the opposition that opposes you? What organizations or entities or people?
Yeah. We'll go through that a little bit more, but I don't really look at people as opponents as much as people with a different opinion. But depending on the various bills, if you would have witnessed this, you would have. Again, I can't tell you how great I think Cody is, because she was trolling some of the people who would get up and say, "We're supportive in concept." And she'd say, "So tell me, when was a concept that you were actually in support of?" And so that was great. But if they included, some of the folks would include things like the Hospital Association on one of the bills, the WISMA, the State Medical Association, but they were supportive on the other bills. So it really kind of depends. The big one is the State Association, National Federation of Independent Business, which represents small businesses. They're always concerned about the cost of anything, without recognizing the fact that if we had a universal healthcare system, that they wouldn't have to pay premiums for their employees, that they could instead give that money for other benefits or for expanding their businesses instead of spending tens of thousands of dollars every year to provide insurance coverage. So there's a lot, but again, my philosophy, and as we go into Thanksgiving, I really take this thing to heart. There's no enemies. We all live together. We have to quit approaching people as enemies and opposition. We have to say, where can I find common ground? Where can I make that ground that I can get those 4 Republican votes and double it to 8 Republican votes on the next bill and 12 Republican votes on the next time, and so on and so forth. People all come from different parts of the state. They're all surrounded by people with different opinions, and we need to continue to reach out, and that's what I do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, well, that was very interesting. Nice to hear the good summary that Cindy had to say. So now we want to talk about 2020, where I'm going to cut this pretty short because the strategy that we're talking about is in your program booklet on page, what page is it, 11 maybe? It's in the index or the table of contents. So page 7, okay. So the overview of our goals and mission are right there on the screen, and the actual strategies we'll be employing this year are in your booklet. There's 2 key areas, the policy area and the organizing area. And I would have to say, after Cindy's report, we can see that we're already making good progress among the policy strategies. The first one was monitor and participate in the Universal Healthcare Work Group. Check, we're doing that. Draft a bill for 2020 to create a single-payer system that regulates the cost of pharmaceuticals in Washington State. Sting, check, we've done that and are doing that. It's ongoing. We meet with legislators and stakeholders as we work to integrate key elements of the WIST into current legislation. That's the Washington Health Security Trust, and get commitments of support. Check, we're doing that now, and there'll be more to come. And then we advocate for the state-based Universal Health Care Act, which we'll hear more about in the panel discussion coming up next. And this will, we've already been securing the introduction of that bill together with many, many allies throughout the nation. who contacted the Ro Khanna, the prime sponsor, to urge him to actually drop the bill, and we had helped him get co-sponsors so he could have a robust list of co-sponsors and move the bill quickly. So that is really great. And then our organizational goals are listed as usual. They're kind of usual. We want to increase our membership. We want to work with the grassroots, the coalition partners we have, and key stakeholders to build a momentum and statewide support for our work. And that's another check. We're already doing that with the Healthcare is a Human Right campaign and then several other groups I mentioned earlier and more. And also the fundraising aspect is really important. We need to raise necessary funds so we can support all of these activities that we're being very successful at doing lately.